Yeah, we are here. Shout out to my people. Where you guys at? Oh man, are you ready? Let's get it, man. I know y'all been waiting on this one. Shout out to my people who requested that I did a reaction to this, man. And so we are here. Let's get this reaction, right? Ready for that action. Let's get it. You already know we with it. King Supreme. Hey, man, it's been a wonderful day. I've been enjoying myself. Hopefully, you guys been enjoying yourself today. He said, "Yeah, man, I'm back. I'm back. Shout out to True Warrior Scholar, man, for tapping on in, man. First things first, you know." What up? What up? What up, Asil? Asil in the building. Tammy, shout out to Tammy, my girl Tammy in the building. Tammy Jackson and Tammy in the building. Shout out to the lovely ladies. Frankie Mack, what's popping, man? Well, of course, we have no allies, right? We've known this for a long time. You see how, I did that stream earlier this morning. Well, yeah, it was this morning, like around 8 a.m. West Coast time. I did the stream about Anton Daniels goes in on Somalians. But these are the same people that he said work harder than foundational Black Americans. But all of a sudden, I guess he had a change of heart. You know. What up, Lauren? Shout out to my girl, Lauren. Health insurance premiums are about to skyrocket for more than 20 million Americans in the next 2 months. I hope none of them blame it on Trump, Republicans, or the big beautiful bill. Shout out to my girl Lauren. Let's get the it is what it is, man. We got you. We got our loyal people in the building, man, and I appreciate everybody for tapping in. Foundational Black Americans, time to stand up, man. We're gonna stand on business each and every time. Yes, it is beautiful. Oh yeah. Mexicans need reparations from who? Who are Mexicans supposed to get reparations from? I know you up in here. I know you're just trolling, but you know it's funny. So I might as well troll you back. Who's gonna give Mexicans reparations for what? They better ask Spain for some reparations. Hey, Mexicans better holler at Spain for some of them reparations. But that's for the Mexicans who are from Mexico, not Mexicans who live in America. Right? If anybody should ask, if Mexicans ask Spain for reparations, it got to be the Mexicans from Mexico, not the Chicanos here in America. Right? Africans from Africa don't get reparations from the United States of America. So Mexicans better go holler at Spain. You know what I mean? Not the Chicanos, Mexicans from Mexico. Active Chucks, man. Shout out to Active Chucks over there doing your thing. I see you, brother. Dumbo and Keyway Conversations, man. Shout out to you, my brother. You know, I can definitely dig it. I respect it, man. Shout out to you, man. The United States don't owe Mexicans nothing. Nothing. Mexicans was not enslaved in America. They were not enslaved here. They don't get nothing. Mexicans in Mexico, they're the ones who could holler at Spain for some type of reparations, if that's possible. But Mexican Americans, no, absolutely not. Mexicans came over here illegally by the millions. They get nothing from the United States of America. You know, they get nothing. But anyway, man, tap on in for the show. Let's go. Let's drop some jewels that you can use, news that you can use on a daily basis. Let's get it. He in here trolling, talking about reparations for Mexicans. When have you ever heard Mexicans talk about reparations? Everybody wants to copy our foundational Black Americans. You ain't never heard Mexicans talking about getting no reparations until they heard foundational Black Americans stomping for reparations. Mexicans ain't never thought about reparations till they seen Black Americans fighting for it, man. Let's be real. Everybody copies from us. Everybody follows our blueprint. Let's keep it a stack. Let's keep it a thou wow. Shout out to Tammy Jackson. Anyway, man, let's get into this clip. Tariq Nasheed debates a white guy about FBA and Black Aboriginals. Let's go.
Culture.
Okay. Now, what about it? And what's white culture?
Well, I mean, white culture would be European culture. So any culture that derives from the continent of Europe,
Which is what?
which is cars, electricity. The white man created electricity, obviously. Things like that.
Cars? Well, I don't know about that.
So where was the first car invented?
Well, they would think it was the DeRay brothers, but at the same time, you had the Patterson Car Company, which was a Black-owned car company that was making cars better than Henry Ford's cars. And Henry Ford, many of his cars.
But the first car was invented by Mercedes.
Right. Well, okay. Well, I thought we were just talking about here in America. It wasn't Mercedes German or something?
I'm pretty sure it was Italian. If I'm not mistaken.
One of those. Okay. But even with Henry Ford, his right-hand man was George Washington Carver, and he was coming up with chemical ways and biological ways to make the cars more durable with some of his inventions. So, we've had a hand in some of that stuff. But other electricity, we talk about electricity. White people invented electricity.
Yeah, so that would be whether it be Benjamin Franklin or Nicholas.
Exactly. Shout out to Active Chucks, man. Active Chuck said what's crazy is that Mexicans was freed by the Spain's slavery by a maroon encampment, Gaspar Yanga, who resisted and actually won freedom for the enslavement for Mexicans. They should be thanking us. Exactly. Shout out to Active Chucks. Damu and Kiwi conversation. Shout out to my brother for dropping that knowledge about history. Because guess what? Gaspar Yanga and the Black Seminoles in Mexico were fighting the Spain. Blacks in Mexico played a major role in Mexico gaining their independence from Spain. Gaspar Yanga fought off a lot of the Spanish soldiers, ran a lot of those people off. Gaspar Yanga had his own territory down there in southern Mexico. Gaspar Yanga was putting in work. The Black Seminoles was putting in work. I'm going to say it again. I said it before. Blacks in Mexico played a major role in Mexico gaining their independence from Spain. That is a fact. That is a historical fact. 100%. Shout out to my man Active Chucks, Damu and Kiwi Conversations for breaking that history down.
Tesla. So they invented electricity.
Not really.
Well, not invented it, but they were the first ones to harness it and use it for civilization. Human civilization.
Well, you had Lewis Latimer, who kind of had a hand in that too, with the light bulb, because he was the one who really invented the modern light bulb. But again, Black people had their hand in a lot of that stuff too, the carbon filament and all that. So a lot of Black people had their hand in it too. Benjamin Franklin flew a kite.
Well, we got to understand the Europeans are known for stealing people's inventions and rewriting history. So you can never believe a group of people who are known for stealing and rewriting history, right? This is what you got to do when you think about history. First, you got to erase somebody's history. And then after you erase their history, you rewrite the history and give your own version. So before they can replace you, they have to erase you. Let me repeat that. Before they can replace you, they have to erase you, erase your history, and then they're gonna rewrite the history and give their version, which are nothing but complete lies. But anyway, let's move on with the story. Let's move on with the content.
And some lightning struck it. So I don't know if that's discovering electricity. So he flew a kite with a key and it got struck by lightning.
Exactly. Exactly. Shout out to Active Chucks, because this is the thing. Blacks were considered property. So if we created something, the people who owned us, which is the white man just took credit for whatever we created. Right? So we use the black people, they use black folks to build everything. They used us to create everything, and then the white man just took credit for everything because they owned us. We were nothing but property. We were nothing but property. So when you're somebody's property, they take ownership over everything that you create. They take ownership of everything that you build. But let's continue. We're just dropping some facts about history.
According to the legend. So, okay. So inventions, because Foundation of Black Americans, we've made a whole bunch of different inventions that were stolen from us, but so white culture is inventing certain things, and really white culture is stealing people's stuff.
No, I didn't say that it was inventing certain things. You just asked me what are parts of white culture, and that would be a part of it. Our inventions and music and
music?
language and things like that.
Like what music? What music was created?
I mean, so you have Beethoven, you have music like that. A lot of classical music. Most classical music was
Beethoven.
invented by, yeah.
Beethoven, huh? Why they call Beethoven the Black Spaniard?
I mean, I've never heard of that term, but I mean, if you could provide a picture of Beethoven or painting.
Shout out to my girl Illuminate Dunn. If I'm saying your name right, Illuminate Dunn. Shout out to you, lady. Shout out to the beautiful ladies that's in the building. I appreciate you all. Let's go.
Of him as a black man, then I would
no, because the myth was that he was like part mulatto. They would call him a Moor. They would call him the Black Spaniard. They said his mother was a Moor, had Moorish bloodline in her. He had inner ear melanin. So we got to really take a look at who Beethoven was.
All right. So then, do you think that biracial people are black?
Yeah, in the system of white supremacy. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about as an FBA, because I've talked to multiple FBAs on here and they denounce any biracial people as not black. So and I looked you up, and from what I could tell, you're one of, I don't know the complete history of FBA, but it seems like you're pretty much the front face of it. So are biracial people considered black in the FBA?
Is your family Mexican, by the way?
No, not whatsoever.
Okay. What part of your
Tariq said, "Are you Mexican?" He said, "No."
Where is your family from?
Germany.
And what?
Germany.
Not just Germany. You're not fully German at all.
Germany and Sweden.
Okay. There's some other stuff going on. There's like some.
You see how blacks were mixed up. You got they took, let's say they took Africans from Cameroon, and they took Africans from Nigeria, and they took Africans from Senegal, right, or Angola. They mixed them all together, right? So this is why the DNA test is not accurate. It just it talks about what region you come from in Africa, right? Because a lot of those Africans were mixed together, and so are the Europeans. This is why you find white people say, "Well, I'm Irish, British, and Swedish." So they'll be, I have a little bit of Italian, German, and Sweden. So the Europeans are all mixed up as well. Let's get it.
Eastern European, some other Eastern European stuff going on with you. But yeah, are you the face of Germany?
How can you tell that?
I can tell. I've been over there before.
How? What part of me can you tell by?
Really the jawline, The jawline it's giving Spaniard. It's something.
No, I have no Spaniard in me.
Okay.
I have no Spaniard in me.
Yeah, you don't look German, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm not here to judge. And yeah, I'm not the front face of a lineage. Foundational Black American is a lineage, sir. Yeah,
Well,
I'm not.
the movement.
Well, there's a delineation movement. The movement is delineation, but hell, I'm not even the face of that. There's several people delineating. People just kind of bring me up a lot because I stomp hard for our lineage, but our lineage is our lineage.
So, are you gonna turn on your camera, or can I turn mine off now? Now that you've seen me.
No, you can. No, you're here. I like talking to you face to face. They know what I look like, so we're talking to you. I like talking to you face to face. We good money. Now you're talking about biracials. Yeah, if you can't pick and choose to be a foundational Black American. Either you are or you're not. Either your family goes back to the beginning of this country and they were classified as Black, or they were not. So that's not optional. You know what I'm saying? Just like Germany, nobody can choose to be or not be German.
So I have a question for you. Just to get the just get an understanding of what foundational Black American means, right? Because I've talked to quite a few, and for the most part, what I've gotten from it is that you guys believe that you are indigenous to America. So the Europeans didn't bring you over from the slave trade. You guys were already here and then were enslaved after that.
No, that's not what I say, and that's no. Some people might say that. Some people might not. I don't say that.
Yeah, okay. So you agree with the whole transatlantic slave trade and that you guys were brought over. Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that we're talking on an intellectual level here.
Right. Okay, let me specify.
See, you got a lot of FBA people who say I don't have no African blood at all. Well, that's almost impossible, and the reason that I say that is because the Black Aboriginals were reclassified as Negroes. So everybody got put on the same plantation. Everybody got put in the same territory. So they mixed and they had children with each other. So for somebody to say that they have no African blood is kind of just ridiculous. Now I get it. I get why some of us don't want to be labeled African, because when they call you African, they're telling you that you're a foreigner. See, white people never labeled themselves European Americans, even though they come from Europe. But they wanted, but they convinced us to call ourselves African American when we have no ties to Africa. Your mother's not from Africa. Your grandmother's not from Africa. Your great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother ain't from Africa. So we have no ties to Africa. So why call ourselves African American? If that's the case, whites should call themselves European American, but they don't. Why? Because Europeans, white people take claim to this land. So they know that they have European blood, but they never call themselves European American. They call themselves white Americans. Why? Because they want to claim this land. So when you call yourself African American, you're pretty much saying that you're a foreigner and you're a foreigner in this country. They don't want you to know that you have ownership to this land. So they reclassified you and called you a Negro and told you that you came from Africa. When in reality, a lot of your ancestors were born right here in America. A lot of your ancestors was right here in America prior to the slave trade. But they convinced us to call ourselves African American. And when we did that, we put ourselves in a trick bag and didn't realize it at that particular time. Anyway, let's continue.
Because there's some people who say we ain't got no African. No. Listen, there were African people brought over during the slave trade. There were Black indigenous people here too. This is very well documented. There's no I. What do you mean I?
It's not well documented. I mean, so are you gonna sit here and say that indigenous people, as we think of it, as taught in U.S. textbooks and everything, so Native Americans that are on the reservations, right? They owned Black slaves. They were a big part of the Black slave trade. They had plantations. They owned Black slaves. During the Trail of Tears, they were able to bring their Black slaves with them. So I think where people get it confused is that those Native Americans bred with Black people. So that's why you see pictures of indigenous people that look of black descent.
That's not some of that happened too, but there were black.
We know that blacks and Aboriginals mixed together. The point is the Aboriginals were already here prior to the slave trade. The white boy is trying to make it seem like, well, you guys only got mixed with natives after slavery took place. No, there were black Aboriginals here prior to the slave trade, but see, white people are in denial about that. They'll never admit that, even if you present the facts, because white people want to convince us that we're foreigners so that we don't have no ownership to this land, right? So there you go. There you go. Now, you think about the amount of slaves that they brought to this country. Do you guys know the life expectancy of a slave who worked in the sugar fields was only like 7 years? A lot of those slaves died off coming over here on the ships, and a lot of those slaves died off on these plantations, right? So when you think about the math, when you think about the numbers, it's impossible for them to bring all those slaves over here. Damn near half of the slaves that they brought on those ships, and think about it, it took months for them to get here. Sometimes it took months for them to get here from Europe, from Africa, all the way to North America. It took months. A lot of those people died on those slave ships. So let's say you got 200 or whatever, however many people you got on that ship, half of the people are dying. And then once they get to the plantation, they're dying from exhaustion. A lot of them were sick. They got sick coming over here. So it's impossible to bring all those slaves over here to the North America, to the Americas, period. So they lied about the number of slaves that they brought to this country in the first place, which tells you, if you're operating from common sense, there was a lot of blacks that was already here. Of course, they brought some of them, but they exaggerated the number of slaves that they actually brought over here. But then again, we're speaking about white man. He lied about history. He erased the history. He tried his best to erase a lot of that history. And once he erased it, he rewrote it and told his story. You can't bring that many slaves over here on the ship. A lot of those people died off on the way over here.
Black indigenous people here, sir. When you look around, there were negritos around the world. Have you been outside? Have you been to any exotic countries?
What do you mean by exotic?
Like Tahiti, Fiji, parts of Asia.
No, I haven't been to
Okay.
Asia yet.
Okay, sir, when you go around the world and look at the Aboriginal population, the Europeans, when they got there, they saw people who they classified, they called them negritos because they had negroid phenotypes, black skin, woolly hair. They saw these people all over the world.
So who categorized them as that?
The white supremacists, when they went over there and saw these
but which was America founded yet, or was it Europeans?
Listen to what I'm saying to you, sir. I'm putting everything in context.
I know, but that's why I'm asking for context. Was it Europeans or was America founded yet? Are you talking about Americans or Europeans?
We're talking about the first people to leave out of Europe to explore the world were Spaniards. All right? The Spanish. Got it? We're on the same page?
No, that's not true.
Okay. Who were the first people to explore the world from Europe?
He said, no, that's not true. I believe it was the Spanish who sailed across the world. I believe it was the Spaniards, right? And then after that, maybe it was I don't know if it was the French or the British, but I believe the Spanish were the first ones in Europe to sail the world, to look for new land to conquer, to look for land to colonize. I believe it was the Spaniards who did it first. Because anyway, let's move on. I'll get back to that in a second.
Oh, hello.
Sorry, I had to do something. That would be the Vikings. So Nordic people.
Yeah, they talked
Nordic
about Eric.
people.
You talking about Eric Red and those guys, Leif Erikson. They said that they went somewhere up in Canada somewhere. They may or may not. Yeah, they got lost over there from Greenland. That's not exploring.
It was the Phoenicians. Baby Lane Stanfield said it was the Phoenicians. I don't know, man. Maybe you guys can educate me because I don't know everything. He said the Vikings also traveled looking for land to conquer. Shout out to Active Chucks, man. My man Active Chucks coming through with the history and the knowledge, man.
In the world.
I mean, they went through Europe, and I believe that they reached parts of Africa and the Middle East, if I'm not mistaken. So You also had the Romans and
What the Romans do?
I heard the Vikings did travel, but I don't think they were successful like that. But the Vikings could have been the first ones to leave, but the Vikings wasn't as successful as the Spaniards were, right? Because the Spaniards actually conquered a lot of land, like they did. The Spaniards conquered a lot of land in the Caribbean. They conquered most of the land in Central and South America. This is why Mexicans, Venezuelans, Colombians, and Peruvians, and this is why all those people down there speak Spanish. And then, you know, of course, Brazil, the Portuguese conquered and colonized Brazil, which is why they speak Portuguese. But most of those countries in Central and South America speak Spanish because of the Spanish conquering all that land. So I believe that the Spanish were probably like the most successful after the English, because you got to think people from Britain, we speak English in America because of the British. I believe that Spain once ruled Jamaica, then eventually the British took over. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Jamaica was once a Spanish territory, then eventually the British took over. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, let's go.
Romans conquered most of Europe, parts of Asia, and parts of Africa. So
Okay, well, yeah, they didn't go around the world. You know, they didn't set the
well,
set
that was
sail
the
in the
world
sea.
at that time.
But
So
no, the world has always been the world. You know, they just didn't discover it. They weren't traveling over the oceans like that,
yeah, but you're talking about parts of Asia.
right?
We're not talking about North America.
Okay, you're missing the point. The first people to leave Europe to really expand around the world to see some of the new lands in the New World were the Spanish. Okay, the Europeans, they didn't know about nothing else. They didn't know about North America like that. And again, Leif Erikson, they stumbled upon some little spot up there in Canada, allegedly, because that's still up for debate. But they didn't have anything popping up there. Um, when the Spanish went around the world, when they finally got out and got some of those Moorish maps, because it was black Moors who showed them the maps and all that shit, how to get around, they saw black people around the world and they called them Negritos. This was all over Asia. This was all over the Pacific Islands, Australia,
Yep,
Tasmania.
Negritos. I heard about the Negritos, you know, in Asia. You know, I've heard about that, man. You know, I've done my research on some of these things, man. I love history. History was always one of my favorite subjects, man. But yeah, man. You know, you got black people everywhere. We're the first men, we're the first people on planet Earth. So of course you're gonna find black folks on every continent. On every continent in every country across the world, you're gonna have black folks. That's just the reality of it. And then when you think about the Spaniards, the Moors conquered Spain. The Moors conquered Spain and Portugal at one point. So a lot of the Spanish, they have black blood in them because the Moors ruled Spain and Portugal for centuries. This is way before the transatlantic slave trade. So you had the Moors who dominated and conquered a lot of parts of Europe, like Spain and Portugal. And the Spanish and the Portuguese learned a lot of things from the Moors. The Moors traveled the world way before the Spaniards traveled the world. How do you think the Spaniards learned how to travel the world? They learned from the Moors. The Moors already taught them how to travel to the Americas. The Moors already taught them that there's another world. There's other countries on the other side of the water. So the Spaniards got that idea from the Moors in the first place. Anyway, man, but that's a whole nother story. We'll get into that.
All of these places they went, they saw black-skinned people with woolly hair. And these black-skinned people with woolly hair, they're still in these places now. Places like Fiji, they still got black-skinned people with woolly hair. They look like
Shout out to Active Chucks. Yeah, it was 800 years. Like I wasn't sure how long, but I knew it was for centuries. But shout out to my man. Shout out to Active Chucks, man. He said the Moors conquered Spain, Portugal, parts of France, and you know what I mean, Castile for 800 years. Shout out to Cheesehead. Hey, shout out to Cheesehead Ali for blessing the Cash App. So yeah, man, the Moors ruled parts of Europe for centuries. That's how the Spaniards and these Europeans learned how to sail the world. They learned from them. They learned from the Moors. The Moors was already going back and forth from Mexico to North, Central, and South America. The Moors was already traveling back and forth way before the Spaniards, way before the Europeans knew about that route. Yeah.
African tribes.
So
You have-
let me ask you a question. Are you of the belief that everybody derived from Africa?
Yeah.
Okay, so wouldn't it make sense that there were some people that came out of Africa that moved to these South Asian these warmer climates, and they maintain their melanated skin?
Of course. And it were black people who were in Europe at one point, the Grimaldi people, but they got depigmented.
Well, I mean, if everybody derived from Africa, then yeah, there were plenty of black people in Europe.
Right, and they got depigmented after the Wormian Ice Age. That's when your pale skin started to happen, after the Wormian Ice Age. The pale skinned people, that's you're not an ancient people. It's only about 6,000-7,000 years old. It's not that.
I mean, I didn't say that we were ancient people. Obviously, evolution.
Okay, right.
But
All right, but again, we're talking about black skinned people. Got it? So if you acknowledge, okay, so you acknowledge, we're both acknowledging that black skinned people came out of Africa and went around the world and then ultimately became Asian, because there were black skinned Asians still over there. You go to Malaysia, there's black skinned tribes with afros who never mixed in with anybody. They're still there. I've seen them. You got the Fijians, black skinned people. You go to Samoa in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, black skinned people with afros, very unmixed. You think black skinned people with afros didn't come here to the Americas thousands and thousands of years ago?
So here's the thing, right? So
That's a
the
yes or
most
no.
egre-
Yes or no. Yes or
No,
no,
I
sir.
I don't think so.
Oh, that's ridiculous, sir. That's illogical. If black skinned people with afros went everywhere else in little tiny remote islands where they're still now, it's ridiculous to think that they wouldn't get on this big landmass, sir.
Right. It's just ridiculous. But see, he's just repeating what his white ancestors have taught him, which are nothing but a bunch of lies. So blacks were everywhere else except for North America. The first time that a black person touched down on, the first time that you saw a black person in North America is when a white man brought him on a slave ship. That is a bold-faced lie. When you think about the native tribes, man, you're crazy if you think all these native tribes were red people. You got different people. Listen, you got different skin tones, complexions in Africa, because Africa is a big continent. Not all Africans look the same. You got lighter skinned Africans, you got medium complected Africans, and you got darker complected Africans. Same thing in the Americas. You have different native tribes. Some of them were red skinned. Some of these people were actually black. You a fool if you think all these natives were just red-skinned people. That is a bold-faced lie that the Europeans have been telling for centuries. So black folks was everywhere else except for North America. They only got here when a white man brought them on a slave ship. Man, please.
I mean, you're talking about a completely different journey, right? So the massively accepted narrative is that the indigenous people that were here, who we consider the indigenous people, came over on a land bridge from Russia
The Bering Strait, yeah.
yes,
Bering
to
Strait.
Alaska, and
They
then they
came
migrated
later.
down through Canada and reached South America. You're talking about a sea voyage that would take months, right? That would take months. That wasn't completely accepted until Christopher Columbus did it. We've now learned that multiple people have done it beforehand, right? But it wasn't a possibility until those types of ships were created. You just can't make that voyage. So
Yeah, you
how would they
can.
have
You
gotten
can.
here?
You can. If they can get all the way in the Pacific
On a
Islands,
canoe?
yeah. How do you think they got to those Pacific Islands, sir? How did those Pacific Islands get populated thousands of years ago?
Which specific Pacific
All of
Islands?
them. Hawaii. How do you think people got to Hawaii?
The indigenous people came from America, right? So they sailed off of California and they sailed to Hawaii.
Okay, that's a long journey.
It's not that long of a journey. It's not as
Are you
long.
insane?
It's not as long of a journey as it is to cross the whole Atlantic or to cross the Pacific.
It is. It's Hawaii from California is a long journey.
It's probably like a day or two.
What, on a boat?
Yeah.
Are you insane?
All right, we should look this up. Right.
He said it's probably like a day or two, dude. You don't know what you're talking about, Tariq Nasheed. I'm telling you, dude. I studied this, brother. I'm telling you, dude. Tariq, like, man, you're insane. You're insane, dude.
Right now.
Really? On a
Hey,
boat?
can you look up how long it takes to get for a boat to get from the coast of California to Hawaii?
A day?
Shout out to Uncle Diggity. Hey, shout out to my man Uncle Diggity. Uncle Diggity, I appreciate you for blessing us with that cash app. That's realer than rap. Dude, are you insane, dude? I mean, dude.
Are you insane?
All right, we should look this up right now.
Really? On a boat?
Can you look up how long it takes to get for a boat to get from the coast of California to Hawaii?
A day? Man.
We're about to look it up. So I
Yeah,
mean,
let's look that up. Are you insane? And we're talking about ancient boats?
Said, dude.
Yeah, we're talking about ancient thousands of years ago. Yeah, that's what, 2,000 miles on a canoe?
I don't know when what the narrative is when it comes to people populating Hawaii, but I don't think it's thousands.
See, white people's knowledge of history comes from people who lied to them, comes from people who first erased history, then they rewrote the history and gave their story. That's where his information comes from, but we already know. Let's go.
Years ago.
So when did they populate Hawaii?
I mean, like I said, I don't specifically know, but I don't think it was thousands of years ago.
Well, shit. When was it?
So it's a 4-day voyage, but you're comparing that to a voyage across the Atlantic Ocean that takes months.
Yes, sir. You're talking about a modern ship. A modern ship might be able to do that. They didn't.
Look up.
You're not making.
Shout out to Miss Make Me a Drink for the super chat. I appreciate you, sweetie, for the love and support.
Sense. You're not making.
No, it says a slower sailboat. It says for a slower sailboat, it'll take 4 days.
No, that's impossible. A slow sailboat? No. And also listen, from the coast of West Africa, going into Central America, Mexico, there's a river within the ocean. There's a current that you can hit a certain time of year that will take you directly from Africa to the coast of Central America. All right. So yeah, it wasn't that hard of a journey. And this current, you don't even need a sail. This is why when they do archaeological digs, they find Negroid looking people in the Americas that were here for thousands of years.
So Tariq,
exactly. There are scientists and scholars who can confirm this information that Tariq just presented to us. You ain't got to take our word. There are scientists and scholars who have spoke on this and gave you the evidence to, hey, man, there's been blacks over here for thousands of years, for centuries. We're everywhere across the world. So white people have convinced everybody that somehow they convinced everybody that blacks only came on a slave ship once they were enslaved by the Europeans. But if you do your research, if you study history, blacks were here prior to any European stepping foot on American soil. Here in the Americas, North America, Central and South America, blacks already existed in the Americas prior to any Europeans coming over here. This is scientifically proven. This ain't my story. I'm giving you real history.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in DNA testing? I'm going to assume
I absolutely do. Yes, I do.
So what you're telling, because like when Puerto Ricans take a DNA test, it pops up in their DNA test that they're Taino and Puerto Rican, that they're Native American to the North Americas and South America. You're telling me
no, it doesn't.
It definitely does.
No, it doesn't.
So yes, it definitely does. So if you're telling me,
shout out to Active Chucks, man. He said the Canary Current. Hey, man, shout out to that brother, man, for dropping a lot of jewels on the Canary Current. Speak on it, Active. Yeah, I appreciate you educating the people, getting real, being very specific about what it is and what's the name of these things. Yeah, man, the Canary Current. Do your research, study it, learn about it, read about it.
Does. So
It
you're telling
100%
me
does.
it 100% does. My friend that's Puerto Rican, I just looked at his DNA test
Yeah,
yesterday,
it
quite
might be
literally
him.
yesterday.
That's not all Puerto
And I
Rican.
had to tell him that he's not even Puerto Rican because he's only 25% Puerto Rican, the rest
Yeah,
European and African.
it's gonna be. You're gonna see Spanish and African. That's what you're gonna
No.
see.
So Puerto Rican,
One thing I do know about now, most of the Tainos in Puerto Rico were wiped out. They a lot of them died out, right? And I went to a Black History Museum when I was in Puerto Rico. I went to Puerto Rico, I believe, in like 2022. It was either 2021 or 2022. I went to Puerto Rico. I went to a Black History Museum in Puerto Rico, and there's a city called Louisa, and they named this city after a Black woman. I went to a cave in Puerto Rico where the slaves used to hide out from the Spanish. I learned a lot about Black history in Puerto Rico, man. Black history runs deep on the island of Puerto Rico. True indeed. Now you had the Tainos, most of them died off. So when a Puerto Rican takes a DNA test, their DNA is going to come from Spain, Africa, and then they have some Taino blood. But Puerto Ricans have more European and African blood, and then the Taino blood is maybe like 10 to 11% because most of the Tainos died off on that island. You know, they wasn't as strong as the Africans. The Africans were built for warfare. The Africans were built to work these plantations. The Tainos died off from the sicknesses and diseases. Africans had stronger DNA systems. The Africans were bigger and stronger. This is why they chose Africans, Black people, to do all the labor on those islands because of that. The Blacks were able to endure a lot of those sicknesses and diseases, and they were physically stronger. That's why they use Black folks for all that labor because of our physical strength. But yeah, man, I went to Puerto Rico. I went to the city of Louisa, San Juan, and a few other places, man. And yeah, man, the Black history in Louisa runs deep. Louisa, Puerto Rico is like it's a Black city. Full of Afro Puerto Ricans, full of Afro Latino people. And I learned a lot about their Black history out there, man. It runs real deep.
Dominican, though Dominican has the most African blood out of any Hispanic island, right? So they're African, European, and Taino. Taino was the native tribe on DR soil and Puerto Rican soil and Jamaican soil.
Yeah.
So Tariq, what you're telling me is that if you take a DNA test with Ancestry right now, it's going to show that you have native blood in you.
I have some native blood. I've done DNA tests. They got me with some European blood, like 20% European. They got some Asian in there. They're going to have the same three things. They're going to have Asian, African, and European. That thing about Puerto Ricans, all of them got Taino, that's bullshit.
That's not
Because the
bullshit.
Taino, it
That's
is,
quite
yes, it is.
literally Puerto
No, no, it's not.
Rican
That's on white not say
identity.
so. That's on white not say so. Most of the
No, it's
Tainos,
not, dude.
most of the Tainos died out, dude. Ain't no Tainos.
Yes, yeah. So
The Tainos did die out. Now, to be fair, a lot of Puerto Ricans do have Taino blood, but it's only a small percentage of them. It's only a small percentage. They only have like 10 to 11% of Taino blood at the most. So when Puerto Ricans say we're Taino, no, you're not. That's the smallest percentage of blood that they have in them. Puerto Ricans have more Spaniard blood than they have Taino blood. Puerto Ricans have more African blood than they have Taino blood. The majority of a Puerto Rican's blood comes from Spain and Africa. Some of them have more blood from Spain. Some of them have more blood from Africa. This is why you have Black Puerto Ricans, then you have the Spaniard-looking Puerto Ricans, then you have the ones who look like a mixture between Spanish and African with a splash of Taino.
yeah,
yeah,
they
they're
were
not going to have
obviously
that. Yeah, they're not going to have that. That's not true.
no.
What you're
So
saying.
they were obviously unalived out, but
Right.
some
So
of
yeah,
them
all of the
bred.
people are
Some of
not
them
going to
bred
have
with
it.
the Europeans. That was
So
the
we
whole
don't do
point.
that. We don't do that
No.
on white not.
Taino is the smallest blood percentage of a Puerto Rican. I trust me, because most of the Taino population was wiped out. So they got a very small percentage of Taino blood. When a Puerto Rican takes their DNA test, the majority of their blood is going to come from Africa and Spain with a splash of Taino in there. I'm giving you the facts. Listen, homie, I went to a Black History Museum in Puerto Rico, and I studied this history for a long time. I've been there. So I know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? I didn't just go to the listen. When I was in Puerto Rico, I didn't just go to the tourist parts. I went to the parts of Puerto Rico that they don't want to talk about, the Black parts of Puerto Rico. I chopped it up with some of the people. They gave me coconuts. They gave me Puerto Rican rum. I went to the Black History Museum in Loíza, Puerto Rico, and they schooled me on the Black history of that country. All facts.
Say those shit. We don't do.
We're not doing that because
Yeah,
the
well, you
whole
are kinda
narrative
doing
of
that.
Christopher Columbus was that he went to the Caribbean and they raped a bunch of Native Americans and genocided them, and that's the whole point. So obviously there's going to be descendants of those Native tribes.
Yeah, but yeah, most of them Puerto Ricans are mixed with African and Spanish. All right, that's the reality.
So they're just European and African.
Listen.
is
So
what you're
now
saying.
listen. Now so listen. So with Puerto Ricans, if you say all of them got Taino Indian, they're mixed with Native. Why wouldn't foundational Black Americans have Native ancestry? And we've been here longer.
Well, that's what I'm telling you, right? So what specific tribe would you be if foundational Black Americans were here already before African slaves were brought over? Or no, you said that you don't agree with that.
Listen to what
Well,
I'm
then
saying.
why don't
Okay,
you-
hold on. No, Stop and listen to what I'm saying. I'm only going to say this one more time, and I want you to understand and not play dumb. All right? There was an ethnogenesis. All right? There were some Black indigenous people here and there were red indigenous people here. All of the indigenous people here were not the red skinned people.
Red.
All right?
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
When the Africans were brought over, before America, we were all classified as Negro, classified a lot.
And now this breaking up. I need everybody that's watching. I repeat, I need everybody who's watching to bless that like button. Make sure that you bless that like button. It's good for the algorithm. A lot of people need to see this content. And also bless the Cash App or the Super Chat if you can. You dig what I'm saying? Let's get back to the content.
Native, there was an ethnogenesis. All right? There were some Black indigenous people here and there were red indigenous people here. All of the indigenous people here were not the red skinned people.
Red.
All right?
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
When the Africans were brought over, before America, we were all classified as Negro. They classified a lot of natives as Negro, and they classified the Africans as Negro and just put us all together, and we had an ethnogenesis. That's what made foundational Black Americans. We had an ethnogenesis, sir. So a lot of times what people do, they don't want to deal with that ethnogenesis part. So y'all get into these straw man arguments, talking in circles about who was really indigenous. All right? That's kind of a moot argument because let's say a person came over here and didn't mix with anybody. They still had an ethnogenesis and they became a foundational Black American because we had a different culture here. We had a whole different way of living. We had a different struggle. We had different obstacles that we had to do. We had different foods that we had to create. So we had an ethnogenesis, all right? So now we're no longer a part of these tribes. Some of these tribes were etched out. They were busted up. Some of these tribes got amalgamated into different tribes, just like when we talk about DNA tests for Native American tribes, you got Creek Indians. There's no DNA test for a Creek Indian. A Creek Indian was something that the Europeans saw. They saw some Native Americans living by a creek and said, you guys are Creek Indians.
That's how you know white folks were just naming stuff. Oh, you guys are Black, you're African Americans. When we allowed these Europeans to label us African Americans, we allowed these people to put us in a trick bag and didn't realize it at the time, like Creek Indians. There's no DNA test for that because they saw some Indians by the creek and just gave them an A. Oh, these are the Creek Indians. So when you do a test for native, it don't really tell you nothing. They just tell you about what region you come from, but it's not specific. The white folks renamed everything. They reclassified a lot of the black aboriginals as Negroes. They did everything in their power to muddy the waters, to create confusions, to rewrite history, to distort history. But that's exactly what they did. But let's get back to the content.
So a lot of these tribes were remixed, renamed, just like Navajo. They were called the Dene tribe, and then the Spanish named them the Navajo. The Seminoles, that's a Native American tribe, but they're an amalgamation of black indigenous, black runaways, and some of the Lower Creek Indians. So a lot of people were remixed, just like African tribes were remixed, thrown together based on colonization. So the bottom line is we had an ethnogenesis when we came here. When some of the black indigenous people mixed with the African people, there was an ethnogenesis. We became a brand new group. That group is foundational Black Americans, which they classified as Negro. And we have a long lineage on this land. We are the ones who built the United States from scratch. That makes sense?
And you see how the white guy laughed. He said, we're the ones who built the United States from scratch. He said, oh, that's not true. You blacks didn't build the United States of America. That's not true. United States was nothing prior to the foundational Black Americans who built it. Go on, show us America prior to the slave trade. Show us America prior to chattel slavery. There was nothing here. There was no development. There was literally nothing until we built it. But the white guy said, oh, that's not true. You guys didn't build this country. I ain't white and I say so. That is not true. He laughed. Listen, he gave a sarcastic laugh like, oh, no. Oh, no. No, it's impossible. No.
So indigenous, black runaways, and some of the Lower Creek Indians. So a lot of people were remixed, just like African tribes were remixed, thrown together based on colonization. So the bottom line is we had an ethnogenesis when we came here. When some of the black indigenous people mixed with the African people, there was an ethnogenesis. We became a brand new group. That group is foundational Black Americans, which they classified as Negro. And we have a long lineage on this land. We are the ones who built the United States from scratch. That makes sense?
mean, you're just losing me with the indigenous black people part, right? Because I don't know why it's so hard to understand, right? That the Red Indians, as you so called it, they owned a big portion of black slaves.
That's a different argument.
We know that the 5 civilized tribes owned slaves, right? But there were other indigenous groups, Aboriginal people who were black in the Americas. We're not denying the fact that the Creeks and a lot of these different tribes, mainly the 5 civilized tribes, we're not denying the fact that a lot of them own slaves. That's not the argument. The argument is blacks were here in the Americas prior to the Europeans showing up. That's what we're talking about.
It's not a different argument.
It is a stop it. That's a different argument.
No,
I know that.
Let me speak.
Listen, no.
Let me just finish my point.
No, because what you're getting into straw man argument.
No, I'm not.
That happened
no,
too.
I'm not.
Yeah, that's a straw man. Yeah, there were some native tribes, some red natives, some of the 5 so-called civilized tribes who engaged in slavery. That's true. I know that.
Yeah.
But there were black indigenous people here too.
No, but you can't prove that, right?
I can absolutely prove it. Prove it. No, you can't. I can. But listen, all you're going to do is I'm white and I say so and deny it, no matter how much proof I have.
What does that even mean?
That means you're just going to be like, which you don't have an argument. All you're going to do is just whatever evidence we bring, You're just going to be I'm white and I say so and no.
Aren't you doing I'm black?
Say, oh no, dude, you blacks were not here prior to us Europeans bringing you to this country. Oh no, you blacks were not in the Americas, dude. Hey, dude, no, dude. You blacks only showed up when we brought you on slave ships. There's no such thing as a black Aboriginal, dude. Knock it off, dude.
Can I say so?
Listen, I can point to white people like Von Woot now. This is a white man who wrote a book called Unexpected Faces in Ancient America. This book proves that there were black indigenous people here. That's absolute proof. There's a book you can look up right now by Von Woot now. This is a white man. He had ancient figurines showing Negroid-looking sculptures that are clearly black people. Also, scientists have Lucia woman. They dug up the oldest human being fossils in the Americas. They did a reconstruction. They said it is a Negro woman. That is Lucia woman down there in Brazil. You can clearly see it.
No, dude, Tariq, you're bugging, dude. No, dude, you blacks only showed up when us whites brought you on slave ships, dude. I'm not buying that black Aboriginal thing, dude. There's no such thing as a black Aboriginal, dude. No. I'm white and I say so, dude. I'm white and I say so, man. You blacks only came to America on slave ships, dude.
A black person. You had white explorers who came over here. Vizarro, who said the people here who were indigenous look like the people in Ethiopia, which was Africa. Balboa, all of these people, many of these white explorers, just all of them saw black indigenous people here who they said look like the people in Africa. This is well documented over and over. Constantine Rafinesque, he was a very well-respected scientist in the 1800s. He did some studies and said America was populated by wild Negro tribes. This is what he said. This is a white man. I'm telling you all the white people.
Would you contribute that to them being ignorant to ethnicities and maybe they looked
at now he wants to blame it on a white man's ignorance. Well, they just label him Negro because maybe the whites who reclassified them are just ignorant, dude. But no, dude, you blacks only showed up when us whites brought you on slave ships, dude. I'm telling you, man. There's no such thing as a black Aboriginal, dude.
At some of the darker tone red Indian
wild, any of these white explorers, just all of them saw black indigenous people here who they said look like the people in Africa. This is well documented over and over. Constantine Rafinesque, he was a very well-respected scientist in the 1800s. He did some studies and said America was populated by wild Negro tribes. This is what he said. This is a white man. I'm telling you all the white people.
Would you contribute that to them being ignorant to ethnicities and maybe they looked at some of the darker tone red Indians, like you say, and just thought of them as black people compared to Africans? Wouldn't you attribute that to that?
Maybe
lack of education,
or maybe they were telling you exactly what they saw. Maybe they said what they saw, and they saw people, and they said they looked like the people in Africa.
Because if I'm not mistaken, I've never heard of a mass accepted narrative from the native or indigenous tribes that populate America today that say that black people were indigenous to this country.
Have you seen the Native American tribes today? They look like Justin Timberlake.
Right. He said, so this is what this white boy tried to say. None of the natives who are here today ever talked about black indigenous people, dude. Well, do you know we got a bunch of $5 Indians, a bunch of white people, a bunch of Europeans who claim to be Native American, a bunch of white people who lied, who clearly lied. These people are clearly European. And they get benefits from the government claiming to be Native American. You got Native Americans who look like Justin Bieber, Justin Timberlake, got the nerve to call themselves Native American, just straight up lying. $5 Indians, straight up lying. So we're not going to take their word for anything. These are the same people who erase history, then rewrote the history. Why would we take their word for anything? Those people are certified liars.
Narrative from the native or indigenous tribes that populate America today that say that
They saw, maybe what they saw, and they saw people, and they said they looked like the people in Africa.
because
Which-
if I'm not mistaken, I've never heard of a mass accepted narrative from the native or indigenous tribes that populate America today that say that black people were indigenous to
Have
this
you seen
country.
have you seen the Native American tribes today? They look like Justin Timberlake.
What
They're
does that
not
have?
even
But
they're
what
not
does that
even
have to
real.
do
They're
with
not even
anything?
natives. They're not natives. And you know what's funny?
So Tariq,
No,
the
hold
reason I
on, hold
say
on, hold
that,
on, hold on, hold on. No. You know what's funny? The black indigenous people, where it's very well documented, there's always skepticism, but all of these Britney Spears looking Native Americans, nobody bats an eye. These aren't real Native Americans that's in these tribes now. These are $5 Indians. These were people who paid $5 to get on the Indian census. They're fake as hell. These are the fake Indians that's out here now. They're
oh.
pretendians. All
So
right.
what about the Native Americans that populate?
Now, those are the real pretendians. These Native Americans who look like Justin Timberlake and Justin Bieber, those are the real pretendians, $5 Indians, straight up Europeans.
Like the Grand Canyon, for instance, there's a Native American tribe that still populates the interior of the Grand Canyon, right? So what I'm saying is they have everything against the white man. They have more against the white man than anybody. So wouldn't you think?
sir, no, that's not true, because it's white men who are running these tribes now. You look at these tribes and take
That's
a good
just
look
not
at it.
true, man. How
If
can you
you
say
don't
that?
stop, yeah, these tribes. What's that politician? What was that politician who said she was a Native American?
Yeah, man, you got a bunch of pale-faced Europeans claiming to be Indians, straight up pretendians. Yeah.
They were clowning her ass. She's white as hell. Yeah, every white person you meet today claims to be some damn Native American. Are you insane?
Well, I mean, I claim to be Native American, as in the definition of native means the soil that you're born on.
Oh,
So I
so
was born in
you said
Americans. I was born in American on American soil, so
That's on
I'm
white not
Native
say
American.
so. Elizabeth Warren, that's her name. Elizabeth
Yeah.
Warren. Yeah, but yeah, you're just doing on white not say so.
What? Why do you keep saying that?
Because
I
you
haven't
just
brought
said
up my
so.
whiteness whatsoever.
Yeah, but you're just using I'm white not say so. It's just like, yeah, it's whatever facts you bring, I'm white not say it ain't real. Man, that's not a
I
real
think you're
argument.
just deflecting when you say that.
That's that because you don't.
I think you're just the dude. Tariq, I think you're just deflecting, dude. When you say that I'm white and I say so, dude, you're just deflecting, dude. You don't have any facts to prove that blacks are originals, that blacks are aboriginals. You can't prove it, dude. You're just deflecting when you say I'm white and I say so. I never claimed my whiteness during this whole conversation, dude. You're deflecting, Tariq. There's no such thing as a black aboriginal, dude.
You don't have a real counter argument, sir. Just is not a counter argument, and that's all you're doing.
I've had plenty of
that's
counter
usually-
arguments, and you
and
just
that's
said
usually and that's just on white now saying I've given you scholarship, I've given you books, I've given you the names of scientists, and your thing is so yeah, you're not really bringing scholarship, sir. You see?
So, I mean, you just don't adhere to the fact that Native American tribes had black slaves, and that's probably what
That's a
happened.
straw
Was they
man.
bred with
That's a
the
straw
black
man
slaves
argument.
that they
No,
had, and
that's
that
a
would
straw
explain
man.
why some black Americans have Native American blood in them and could trace their lineage back to a Native American tribe through DNA testing.
That's a straw man argument, sir. You keep talking about the 5 civilized tribes who did have enslaved people, but there were other people who were just native. You had black people who were Choctaw. They just got reclassified as Negro. That happened a lot. You had people like Walter Plecker. There was a white man who was a white supremacist over in Virginia. He went and just changed a whole bunch of birth records of people. This is very well documented. There are a lot of Native Americans who had black phenotypes. He just changed them from Native to Negro. This is well documented, sir. I can bring you
You
scholarships
quite
in there.
literally just said a lot of Native Americans who had black phenotypes, he changed them uh to black, right? So you just admitted that the ignorance of a white man that looked at a Native American and because they had more black phenotypes, they changed them to black. You just used that argument for yourself.
Why are you acting confused? What is that to be confused about?
There's nothing to be confused. That doesn't make them any less Native American or red-skinned Indian, like you said. They're not black. It was just the ignorance of somebody that changed their documentation to black because they looked a little bit more black.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So a lot of people who got classified as Negro were really just indigenous. See?
So where are the indigenous people that were Negro, quote unquote?
What do you mean where?
I'm confused where you're confused, my man.
I'm confused. What do you mean where are they? What do you think they are? They're walking around here now.
But
What are you
you're
confused
trying to
about?
say that those are black Americans.
Some of them, yeah. Where do you think they went?
Dude.
Dude, nothing. I'll give you an example. You know,
dude. Tariq Nasheed, you got black Aboriginals who are still here. He said, dude, are you tripping, Tariq Nasheed? Dude. Tariq said, do nothing. Dude, what do you mean black Aboriginals? You blacks only came to North America when us whites brought you on slave ships. Dude. Tariq said, do nothing.
the case Loving versus the state of Virginia, they did a movie about that. Loving, remember that movie?
No, refresh me.
Okay, it's about a Negro woman marrying a white man, and there was a thing. Well, if
Oh,
you don't,
the one drop rule.
I don't know about the one drop rule, but yeah, this was a very important case, Loving versus the state of Virginia. This couple, is the white man and this Negroid woman who were married in Virginia, but it was supposed to be illegal or something like that. And their case helped get interracial marriages, the ban off interracial marriages off the books.
Yeah, I know what
Okay.
you're talking about.
Okay. But this woman, she was actually Native American. She got reclassified as Negro, but she was really a Native American, but she looked like a typical black person, but she was really Native American. There was a lot of situations like that. You see? So a lot of people around here
So
who
I
are
have a
called
question for
African
you,
American,
Tariq.
my point is there were people around here today who are actually black indigenous people. They're mixed in with African American and all, African and all that, but there were black indigenous people here. They're just
So
it's too well documented.
Tariq, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So when a black person and a white person have a baby, 9 times out of 10, which phenotypes does the baby usually adopt?
It's going to have the black phenotypes mostly.
Okay, so wouldn't you think that when a black person and a red-skinned Indian has a baby, which phenotypes do you think that they'll usually adopt?
It's going to get the black
So what
phenotype.
he's trying to say is the only reason that you have black Indians is because of the blacks who were enslaved by these indigenous tribes, and that's the only reason that you have black Indians. No, dude. The blacks existed prior to the slave trade. But of course, you've been fed something different. Of course, you've been told something different. So you're going to just run with the lie because why didn't I say so, dude? I don't believe that, dude. My family told me that blacks only came on slave trade. Blacks only came on slave ships, dude. There's no such thing as a black Aboriginal, dude.
Okay, so maybe do you think that her ancestors, like I said, going back to the whole indigenous people enslaving black people thing, maybe don't you think that the reason she had indigenous DNA was because some of her ancestors had slept with indigenous people and she still adopted the phenotypes of African slaves?
The problem with that narrative is that too many European explorers, when they first got here, they all saw black indigenous people here based on their testimonies, even in the map. So even before formal slavery over here even happened, they were talking about the black indigenous people they saw. Even if you look at maps that were drawn in the 1500s, they would always draw the indigenous people looking like Negroes over here. So there's something to that. Everybody wasn't lying, okay? And all
So
of these explorers were not lying.
my argument to that, and this is easy to prove, right? Your argument is so easy to prove. It's like the most, especially because you believe in DNA testing, right?
Mhm.
So your argument can be easily proved by a phenotypically black person, right? Taking a DNA test, and the majority of their DNA is indigenous American DNA. It's the easiest thing to prove. They just have to swab their mouth, send it in, it'll come back.
Shout out to the chat, man. Hey, man, we got 500 plus people watching. 500 plus people watching. Let's get 500 people to like this stream. And oh yeah, make sure that you hype the video when it uploads to YouTube. Shout out to the fam. This is my small channel, but we're growing on this channel. We cooking in this thing. King Supreme.
Everybody wasn't lying, okay? And all of these explorers were not lying.
My argument to that, and this is easy to prove, right? Your argument is so easy to prove. It's like the most, especially because you believe in DNA testing, right?
Mhm.
So your argument can be easily proved by a phenotypically black person, right? Taking a DNA test, and the majority of their DNA is indigenous American DNA. It's the easiest thing to prove. They just have to swab their mouth, send it in, it'll come back, it'll say 60%, 70%, 50%, a majority of indigenous DNA. And it'd be like that would be
Then
simple.
why don't red natives allow DNA? They don't allow you to do DNA tests for even the red native tribes. You got to have paperwork. Why do you think they do that?
I don't know why they have laws in their
I
land.
know why.
They're on
I know why.
reservations, so they run their own laws.
I
don't
know
why
why.
they do
Yeah,
that.
they don't a DNA test. They don't let that shit happen.
But
To
why? It
get
would
to
just
be,
say
I'm
that
gonna
they're
tell you why.
indigenous
No, I'm
and
gonna tell
probably
you why.
European.
I'm gonna tell you why. They don't let because the DNA tests are not. They don't really tell you nothing about the tribe. The DNA tests are vague. They give you just vague DNA that goes all. It's going to always go to Africa, Asia, and Europe. So a lot
Exactly.
of red natives, if they do a DNA, a lot of it is going to go back to Asia. They're going to be like Siberia. It's going to go back there because a lot of them don't have markers. There's no Seminole marker. There's no Creek marker.
So do
There's
you
no.
believe in DNA testing or not?
Okay, are you missing the point? Yeah,
No, your point is that their DNA would trace back to Asia and places like that. There's no
because
real
they don't.
marker.
A lot of
So
them
do you
don't
believe
have
in it or
certain
not?
markers. The DNA test is not it's not as accurate as it could be. It just tells you a vague ancestry from thousands of years ago.
Right. It's not specific. It just tell you, hey, well, in this particular region, and you had different tribes in that same region. Like, for example, you might have Cherokees and Choctaws who occupy some of the same areas, right? But they're not being specific. They're just giving you all this region. But like I said, it doesn't narrow it down to what Pacific tribe, dude. DNA doesn't narrow it down to one specific tribe, dude. It just tell you about a region, and we had different tribes that occupied some of the same regions, dude. So these DNA tests, dude, they're not specific, dude. They give you an idea, but they're not going to get down to the specifics. They're just not.
There would still be a majority DNA rooting back to America and indigenous people in America, right?
Because you got to have a marker for it. You got to have markers for it, and
So
a lot
you're
of
telling me that no marker exists for foundational Black Americans, indigenous Black Americans?
a lot of indigenous people, there are no markers for them because a lot of these different tribal groups came about through different migratory patterns, so they're just not going to have markers for them. And a lot of these tribal groups got dissolved. A lot of these tribal groups got remixed, so there's not going to be a marker for them. So they're just going to give you the same generic markers that they got from Africa, Asia, and Europe. So yeah, the DNA. That's why they say DNA
a black Aboriginal, dude. You blacks only came on slave ships when white Europeans brought you over here, dude. There's no such thing as a black Aboriginal, man.
That are not reliable to tell you exactly where your lineage is. That's why your paperwork is very important, sir. You see how that
So, I
works?
mean, what you're saying is there's no definitive proof that there was any indigenous Black Americans. There's only maybe accounts from like
Yeah, there's
white
proof.
people that came here and maybe thought that indigenous people were black people. There's only like
They
firsthand
thought.
accounts from hundreds of years ago.
Yeah. Well, do you have definitive proof that everybody came here on the slave trade who's black?
I mean, there's definitely records, boats. There's definitely a lot more proof than there was any indigenous Black people here.
Well, really, let's look at the proof because according
Well, Tariq Nasheed, I'm going to tell you, there's no proof that there was black Aboriginal people here, dude. Come on, man. Come on, Tariq. You're deflecting, man. Blacks came from Africa on slave ships, dude. There's no such thing as a black Aboriginal, man. You're deflecting, Tariq.
to the records, only 300,000 people got over here from Africa to North America, according to the records.
What records would that? Yeah, I mean, that's fair, right? Because the mass accepted narrative is that we stopped accepting people acquiring slaves from Africa, right?
Mhm.
So we stopped that.
Let's get some more people to bless the cash out. We got 500. We almost got 600 people. We almost got 600 people in the live chat. That's realer than rap. Make sure that you support the cash app or the super chat. Make sure that you show some love and support to this beautiful game delivered by King Supreme in a major way. Oh boy. Now let's get back to the content. Show some love and respect. Microphone check. Shout out to Tariq Nasheed.
Before we ended slavery, and then what happened was Southern slave owners started breeding slaves in the South. That was that's the accepted narrative. So that would make sense that we stopped at 300,000 and then we started breeding them on our own.
Right.
And
Okay, so even
if
if
I'm
you
not
breed-
mistaken,
Even if you breed, that don't account for like millions and millions popping up damn near overnight.
it wasn't millions and millions though. I think you
Yeah.
have the population numbers wrong.
Do you know that almost half of the slaves on those boats died on the trip to North America? And once they got to the plantation, a lot of them died in the fields. So it would be impossible for them to bring all those slaves from Africa. The math ain't mathing. As you guys love to say, it doesn't. Listen, homie, 2 + 2 ain't 40. It's 4. They didn't bring all those Africans over on slave ships. It's mathematically impossible. You're lying, dude. Almost half of the slaves that they brought on those boats perished, and a lot of them didn't make it. A lot of them got sick on those boats. A lot of them jumped into the water. A lot of them just didn't make it, dude. So let's say you bring 200 Africans on a boat. Almost half of them don't make it. They die out. Whether they were sick or many other reasons. Then once you get to America, you put these people in the sugar fields, or you put them on a plantation where they got to pick cotton. A lot of those people didn't make it. You work these people from sun up to sundown 6 days a week. And from my understanding, they only got one 15-minute break. During the whole day, they only got a 15-minute break. These people worked from sun up to sundown. They worked these people like animals. They worked them like dogs. They didn't treat these people like human beings. They treated them worse than animals. The slave master treated their animals better than they treated black folks on them plantations, man. They worked us from sun up to sundown. It didn't matter if you were sick. It didn't matter what condition you were in. Even think about the people that were sick and you don't have the same medicine that you have today. to combat certain illness and certain sicknesses. So you can only imagine how many black people died. Let's say you were sick in the morning. The slave master said, no, you're going to get out there and work that plantation. You could have been sick, under the weather. The slave master didn't care. He wanted you to get out there to make his money. So imagine how many slaves died off on a plantation working in those fields. Imagine how many slaves died on those ships. Imagine how many slaves died on those ships on their trip to America, on their way to the Americas.
Yeah, there were millions of us over here in the 1800s.
So, I mean, I can look up the population real quick, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't more than 2 million.
Now look it up.
All right, we're gonna look it up. Let's see.
Look that up right now. And let's say 1800. Because only 300,000 and less than that was brought over on the slave ships.
Shout out to CJ Rich Boxing for the super chat. I appreciate you, my brother. Shout out to my people for supporting the content. Shout out to my girl Evelyn for blessing us with a beautiful cash app. Now let's get back to the content. Realer than rap, that is no cap. Gang delivered by King Supreme by the way of Tariq Nasheed. Huh?
All right, let's look that up, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so the population was 850,000 to just under 900,000.
Okay, and what year is this?
This was 1800, which is what you wanted me to look up.
Yeah. Okay. Now, by 1865, when slavery was over, how many black people were here?
I'll look that up right now.
They getting the math together, man. Listen, bro. They worked us from sun up to sundown. The slave master didn't care if you were sick. He still put you out there in the plantation. We didn't have the same medicine that we have today. So imagine how many people passed away because they got overworked, worked from sun up to sundown, even when they wasn't feeling good. They were overworked and never paid by the slave master. So a lot of us passed away on those ships coming to America. A lot of them got sick. And a lot of them pass away for many other reasons, not just sickness. So you lose half of the people that's coming to America on the ships. And once you get to the Americas, you working these people that's been on these boats for months and they're sick, but you still working for sun up to sundown. So a large percentage of our people died off as a result of being worked too hard and being treated like animals. Come on, bro. Come on, dude.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's look at those numbers. All right, it was damn near. I know what the numbers are. Come on.
Yeah, so it was 4 million. So I mean,
almost 5. It was like 4 to 5 million.
Yeah, so I mean, what you also have to account for. So then you
How the
have
hell you get
60.
so many people in that short amount of time?
Well, I'm gonna explain to you. So you have 65 years of a population of free black people breeding and populating, and then you have a 65-year time period of Southern slave owners breeding
You
slaves.
ain't bred
So
no 4 million people, sir. You didn't breed 4 million goddamn people in 65 years.
why wouldn't you be able to? Do you know the
It takes
population
9
growth of
months.
us
It takes
over the
9
past
months,
few
sir.
decades?
That's mathematically impossible, sir.
So what was the population of America in
Listen.
1960?
No. Let's not try to.
What was the population of America in
Hold on.
1960
No. Let's
compared
get
to
back to these
today?
numbers. You try. No.
Yeah,
Come on.
numbers. But what I'm saying
Yeah,
is
you
you're
can't
saying that it's
breed 4 million
mathematically
people
impossible,
sir. You
but
can't
the
breed 4.
population of America in
You can't.
1960
Don't
was
talk
only a
over
couple
me.
hundred million.
You're talking over me now. You're trying to crash out. Yeah,
No,
you can't
not at all.
breed.
Go ahead.
You can't breed 4 million people in 65 years, sir.
They
It's
didn't breed 4
impossible.
million people. If you want to talk in terms of breeding, they only bred 3 million
Okay, you can't breed 3 million people in damn 65 years, sir.
You can't breed 3 million people in 65 years, especially when you're working people on the plantation. A lot of them are passing away because of sicknesses and illnesses. And you're working these people from sun up to sundown. You're working them like animals. You're treating them worse than dogs. So the logic of the slave master was to just, well, you know what? I'll just get more slaves. I'll just breed them. I'll just continue to breed them. See, the white man felt like he had to work you from sun up to sundown to get his money to keep you working in those fields so that you can produce more cotton, so that you can get more sugar, so that they can sell it and get money, so eventually they can get wealthy. See, do you know even the black people that were free? You had freedmen, right? You got black people that was free back then. The black people who were free wasn't even allowed to pass down wealth to their children. Let's say you was a free black person during that time. It was illegal for you to pass down wealth to your children, even if you was a free man. As a free man, you couldn't even pass down wealth to your children. They made it illegal. But the white man who got wealthy from our labor, they passed down wealth from generation to generation. You as a free man, as a black person, the black people who were free, they made it illegal for you to pass wealth to your children. So it didn't matter how much money that you had when you was living as a free black person, you couldn't pass down none of that wealth to your children. And guess who took over your land and took your wealth? The white man. So you probably was free, but you couldn't pass no money down to your children. The white man took all of your wealth, even as a free man. That's how wicked and corrupt the white man was. Man, let's continue.
Of course you can. Like
5 years.
Southern slave owners breeding slaves.
You ain't bred no 4 million people, sir. You didn't breed 4 million goddamn people in 65 years.
Why wouldn't you be able to? Do you know the population growth of us over the past few decades?
That's mathematically impossible, sir.
So what was the population of America in 1960?
Listen. No, let's not try to.
What was the population of America in 1960?
No. Let's get back to these numbers. You try. No.
Yeah, numbers. But what I'm saying is, you're saying that it's mathematically impossible.
Sir, you can't breed.
The population of America in 1960 was only a couple hundred million.
You're talking over me now. You're trying to crash out. Yeah.
No, not at all. Go ahead.
You can't breed 4 million people in 65 years, sir.
They didn't breed 4 million people. They only, if you want to talk in terms of breeding, they only bred 3 million.
Okay, you can't breed 3 million people in damn 65 years, sir.
Of course you can. Like I said, if you want to bring a population number,
how can you want to bring a
population number? Our population in the 1960s was only 150 million. We're now at 350 million.
That's because of immigration.
Immigration.
That's because of immigration.
Sir,
that's because of immigration, sir.
Sir, immigration only accounts for 70 million of that.
Yeah,
so what are you talking about?
Do you know that Brazil, America, and a lot of these other countries imported millions of Europeans? They brought over Irish, Germans, Italians. Brazil was a majority black at one time. Do you know that Brazil was majority black? They still got a large black population today, but they imported a gang of Europeans to whiten up that country. That's how black Brazil was. They said, nah, Brazil looks like another Africa. Brazil was pretty much Africa outside of Africa. They took more black slaves to Brazil than they did to the United States. Brazil, listen, they brought more Africans to Brazil than they brought to the United States. Brazil was so black that the white supremacists in Brazil said, nah, man, we got to import millions of Europeans because we got to whiten up this country. Brazil is way too black. We got to whiten up this place. So they brought millions of Europeans over to Brazil because they wanted to whiten up the country so bad. And Brazil ain't the only place that they did that. Yeah.
Sir. Yeah, that's because of immigrants. They let a whole bunch of immigrants on here.
So immigration only accounts for 70 million of that.
Yeah, in the 1800s, they were not.
Yeah, they brought Germans to Brazil, Italians, Europeans in general. They overpopulated Brazil were Europeans for the purpose of whitening up that country because Brazil was too black.
Black people were not coming over from Africa, and you didn't breed 3-4 million people. It's impossible to breed them into people.
It's a high possibility, and
No, it's not, sir.
that's what happened.
And there were only breeding farms in certain areas like Maryland, Virginia, New Orleans. So the breeding farms weren't
actually. Here you go. It says it right here under the description, right? The key figures in context.
See, do you guys know in 1739 in Charleston, South Carolina, there was a slave revolt by a man named Jimmy. They robbed stores and took guns and weapons and unalived the slave masters and many more white people. And they were headed to Florida because they, in Florida, they were promised, if you guys help us fight out the British, you guys can come to Florida. But yes, in Charleston, South Carolina in 1739, a man by the name of Jimmy orchestrated and led a slave revolt and unalived several white slave masters across Charleston, South Carolina. This slave revolt took place in 1739, Charleston, South Carolina. Read it up, look about it, look it up, study it. 1739, there was a slave revolt in Charleston, South Carolina, led by a guy named Jimmy. They got guns, they got weapons, and they unalived several Europeans, several slave masters. This is South Carolina, 1739. There were several slave revolts that they don't talk about throughout the history in this country.
It says growth. The slave population nearly quadrupled from 1790 under 700,000 to 1860 due to both forced migration and natural increase.
Forced migration where? What are you talking about?
Hold on, let me get the contact. Let me get the source that is pulling from.
You know what? You know how it got big? They start reclassifying indigenous people as Negro. That's what happened.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that would go towards your narrative, but
right. That's what they would do. They started all they started to do was reclassify indigenous people as Negro. That's how the number got that big. It wasn't all that damn breeding.
Let's see.
That's why. You didn't breed no 3 million damn people in 65 years. That's mathematically impossible.
Actually, okay, so do you believe the
I'm gonna believe what makes sense, sir. But
man, it was impossible for all those slaves to survive that journey to the Americas from Africa. It's mathematically impossible. A lot of those people didn't make it on the journey to the Americas. Then once they got to the Americas, the European worked them like dogs. They worked these people 6 days a week from sun up to sundown. It didn't matter if they were sick. It didn't matter if they was unhealthy. Didn't matter what condition they was in. White people worked these people like dogs on those slave plantations. Those white folks treated their animals better than black folks on those plantations. It didn't matter if you were sick. It didn't matter if you was under the weather. It didn't matter if you was old and can barely walk. They still worked you to death. Because you wasn't viewed. Listen, whites did not view blacks as human beings. They looked at us. What was it? You were 1/4 of a human being. Correct me if I'm wrong. They said we was 1/4 of a human being. They didn't treat us like humans. They didn't treat us like humans. They treated us worse than animals. They worked us from sun up to sundown 6 days a week, and they only gave you one 15-minute break during the whole day. So imagine how many black slaves died on those plantations working hard from sun up to sundown.
I'm just asking if you believe the source that I'm pulling from.
No, sir, I believe math. I believe math and logic. And all they did was reclassify natives as Negro because
right here it says from the small beginning, the slave population grew rapidly. In 1790, the first census of the United States counted 624,000 slaves. In 1860, the eighth census counted 3,953,760 slaves. This remarkable growth was the result of two factors: continued importation of new slaves from Africa and the Caribbean, and the natural population growth, especially among American-born slaves who lived longer lives and bore more children than African-born slaves.
He's not telling you about all the blacks who passed away on those plantations because the whites working them like dogs. Now, Angry Man said the white man was nice. The white man was nice. He wanted to protect his property. The white man was nice. Yeah. The movie Roots embellished slavery. Slavery was better than what they portrayed it in a hit series called Roots. That's what that Sambo Angry Man said. Angry Man said that the slave masters was nicer to black folks in reality. They made it seem. Angry Man said they made the slave masters seem meaner than what they actually were. The slave masters was way nicer than that. Oh my God! And you got black people who listen to that clown. The slave masters was nicer to blacks in real life. They portrayed the slave masters to be meaner than what they actually were in movies. Words of the Angry Man, not mine.
Okay, that's just kind of babble. That's not
babble. That's from the hold on. Let me get my source. It's a .gov source. So I mean, let me just get this. What the fuck is the National Library of Medicine, National Center of Biotechnology Information.gov.
Sir, I don't know what all that is. That's let's just go with what makes sense.
Well, right? It's a government website, so
okay.
I mean,
okay. Let's just go with logic. They didn't breed 3-4 million damn people in 60 years. Number one, a lot of the enslaved people, their death rates were already high. They were dying off because of malnutrition, disease, unsanitary housing, physical abuse. So the mortality rate was already high, especially for infants. You understand? So you can't, in 60 years, you can't multiply all of them with the high death rates, multiply that into damn 4 million people in 60 years. The women were not having enough children for that kind of explosive growth.
But that's just not true, right? Because it says, although slave imports accounted for...
Man, they worked us from sundown to sun up, and they only gave us one 15-minute break. You know how hot it was in the summertime on those cotton picking fields? They worked you regardless. Now imagine, think about it. We're only human beings. Some of us got sick. Some of us was under the weather. The white man worked you from sun up to sundown, regardless of how sick you actually was. They didn't care. They treated their animals better than they treated us. They looked at us as property. They didn't look at us as human beings. So they had no sympathy and no mercy, even if you were sick and under the weather. The white man still made you get out there and work from sun up to sundown.
Most of the population growth in the 17th century, and continued to be a significant factor until the federal government abolished the legal importation of slaves in 1808.
Listen what I'm saying. Okay,
hold on.
You're kind of babbling. So that
no, I'm not babbling. I'm reading from the source.
Listen to what I'm saying. In 60, let's just math. That would require...
They had breeding farms, dude. Okay. It still doesn't add up, fool. A lot of those slaves who worked the plantations died because the white man worked you so hard every damn day. Then half of the slaves that they brought over here didn't make it. They passed away on the slave ships. They treated us like animals. They didn't treat us like human beings. So what makes you think a lot of those black people didn't perish and pass away due to the cruel conditions, the inhumane conditions? Those are terrible circumstances to live in. So as a result of that, a lot of us passed away. You a fool if you believe they brought all those slaves over here on ships. That didn't happen. Yes, they breeded us, but the numbers still don't add up. Let's be real. I'm giving you the hard-hitting facts. Now that is realer than rap. No cap. 100.
Every black woman to have about 8 kids.
So look, it says natural population. Most of the population growth growth in the 17th century and continued to be a significant factor until the federal government abolished the legal importation of slaves in
Listen, what I'm
1808.
saying. Okay,
Wait, hold
you're
on.
kind of babbling. You're kind of babbling, sir. That
No,
would
no, I'm not
require.
babbling.
Listen,
I'm reading
that would
from the
require.
source.
Listen to what I'm saying. In 60, let's just math. That would
Babbling.
require every black woman to have about 8 kids.
So
That
look,
wouldn't
it
happen.
says natural population growth was the more important of the two factors over the long run. The robust natural population growth of the slave population in the United States stands in a dramatic contrast to the negative rates of growth experienced by slave populations in the Caribbean and South America, which continued to grow only because of continued imports of slaves via the transatlantic slave trade. So that means that South America and the Caribbean didn't experience such growths because they weren't having a natural growing slave population through
What are you talking
breeding.
about, sir? What are you just saying? Shit. What are you saying?
No, I'm
What are you
not.
saying?
I'm reading a source
You're just
explaining
reading out
why
of
the
context stuff.
population
You're
of
reading out
black.
of context stuff, sir. You're just
It's the
punching air.
context that we're talking about. What are
No,
you
it's
talking
not. You're
about?
talking
He
about
said, man, you are babbling. You're babbling. You are rambling. You are babbling. 100%, dude.
South America. You're just talking.
It's comparing the population of black slaves in South America and the Caribbean
does
to
that have
the
to do with what was
population of
happening
black
here?
slaves in America,
That has nothing to do
in
with
the
what we
United
had going on
States.
here. You're just talking, sir.
No, I'm not. You're just not. You're
just saying
deflecting
stuff.
because what I'm
you're
saying is directly proving you wrong.
No, it's not. What do you summarize what you're saying in your own words?
Okay, so the reason why the black population during the early 1800s up until slavery ended grew so significantly is because slaves were breeding with each other. We had a natural breeding process, right?
You don't breed. Okay, and again, mathematically, you ain't breeding no damn 3 million people, sir.
They were breeding.
Come on, dude. It's mathematically impossible, dude. Come on, man. Think about it today. Even anyway, man, let's move on with the content. Make sure that you guys bless that like button. It ain't nothing.
No, it's not. You're talking about South America. You're just talking.
No,
sir.
it's comparing the population of black slaves in South America and the Caribbean
that
to
have
the
to do with what was
population of
happening
black
here?
slaves in America.
That has nothing to do
In
with
the
what we
United
had going on
States.
here. You're just talking, sir.
No, I'm not. You're just not. You're
just saying
deflecting
stuff.
because what I'm saying is directly proving you wrong.
No, it's not. What do you summarize what you're saying in your own words?
Okay. So the reason why the black population during the early 1800s up until slavery ended grew so significantly is because slaves were breeding with each other. We had a natural breeding process, right?
You don't breed. Okay, and again, mathematically, you ain't breeding no damn 3 million people, sir.
They were breeding on their own. What are you talking about?
What you mean breeding on their own?
Natural population growth.
Not at no 3 million without immigration. No.
That's how that works.
No, it's not how that works, especially if you have a high mortality rate at the same time.
So whites had a high mortality rate during that time too. We still bred on our own, and the population grew significantly.
Y'all weren't under duress. No, we had a very high mortality rate. Y'all weren't breeding us like that. The most logical answer is Aboriginal people were being reclassified as Negro and put on plantations, which is exactly what happened. That's why the population got big.
I think they
shout out to Landon Dallas. Landon Dallas said the funny thing is the same thing the Morris Science Temple was saying back in the day. Shout out to Landon Dallas for sliding on through with the super chat.
You're just denying reality, my man. And what I think is
you're denying math.
What I think is happening here, right?
You're denying math, sir.
I'm not denying math. I understand math.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I'm bored. I'm bored. Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to talk in circles. Yeah, he's punching air at this point. All right.
Oh man, this white boy is fighting hard, saying that there's no such thing as a black Aboriginal. You guys showed up on slave ships, dude. You were not in the Americas prior to the slave trade, dude. The first time a black ever stepped foot on North Americas is when the white man brought you guys on slave ships, dude. There's no such thing as a black Aboriginal, dude. No way, man. You're deflecting, Tariq. You're deflecting. There's no such thing as a black Aboriginal, dude. Come on, man.
He's punching air. All right. Yeah. That's it. When the white tea supremacists, when they tap out, they just get to babbling in circles. They'll just babble nonstop if you let them. Just take the L, sir. You're trying to come up with all of these janky ass excuses. No, that's why I wanted him to check out the populations in 1800 and then 1865. That's why I wanted him to see that. We grew, the population was really around 5 million. All right. We went from 1 million to 5 million in 60 years. That ain't from no damn slave breeding. All right. All they did was say, okay, you indigenous people, get on the plantation. You're Negroes. That's all that happened, ladies and gentlemen. That's all happened. That's the most logical thing that happened. All this other shit, you got to dance around and drive around in a circle. Well, there were some. Well, in South America, there were some. Dude, okay, you're just talking. Yeah, all they did was just reclassify indigenous people. That's it. That's all they did. It was that simple.
Hey, man, this was a good back and forth, man. Great conversation, man. I had to bring it to you guys, man. Really didn't rap, no cap, game delivered by King Supreme in a major way. In a major way. Huh? You know, tap in and make sure that you like the show. It's King Supreme in a major way. Hey, man, it is time to get it. Subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna get up out of here, you guys. I appreciate everybody for pulling up. And yeah, man, it's been real. Let me read some of the comments before we get up out of here. He said, one national treasure said, my family are Blackfoot Cherokee Indians from the East Coast and migrated to the West Coast. No history of slavery. Okay. It took them 100 years to go from 1.5 million to 1 million, the 1700s to 1800s. How does the population grow 6 times even in less time? Shout out to Majestic 7058. Huh? Shout out to everybody, man. It is what it is. This group of people are against reparations and saw all of their arguments to follow this. Shout out to Silent Lamont. Silent Lamont, I appreciate you for giving your feedback. People used to have big families. My grandparents had 23 kids. Okay. What's this dude name? In Flash. Families were big, 10 kids or better. What rock y'all under? I'm from the South. My grandfather had 15 kids. Nah. Okay. So you say. Tornado said Morris Temple is modern day Marcus Garvey trash philosophy. That's what he said. My girl Tammy said Babylon. She said babbling Babylon. Shout out to Tammy. Right? Yeah, man. Hit that like button. It ain't nothing. Shout out to my people, man, for tapping on in with us, man. You know, we had to get this one in. I had to bring it to y'all. If his family wasn't enslaved, then he's not FBA. Okay. He said, if your family wasn't enslaved, then you are not FBA. You gotta love that. How you love that? How you love that? Can you dig it? Can you dig it? How you love that? Make sure that you guys bless that like button. It ain't nothing. Oh, it ain't nothing. Bless that like button. You know. Let's get it in. Let's talk about, do you know some of the biggest slave owners, slave masters in this country? There was a guy by the name of Joshua John Ward in Georgetown, South Carolina. Joshua Ward in in Georgetown, South Carolina, not Charleston, Georgetown, South Carolina. Joshua Ward, he was the king of the rice planters. He had 1,100 slaves. This guy named Joshua owned 1,100 slaves, and he had 6 plantations. He produced 3.9 millions of rice. So this white man in Georgetown, South Carolina had 6 plantations with 1,100 slaves. That white man was wealthy. In 1850, he controlled 6 large slave plantations. There was another guy by the name of his name was Stephen Duncan. Stephen Duncan was a businessman who enslaved over 2,000 blacks. Stephen Duncan in Mississippi. He enslaved over 2,000 blacks in his whole lifetime. You know, this dude owned 15 plantations from Mississippi to Louisiana. Listen, man, that dude had 15 slave plantations in Mississippi, from Mississippi to Louisiana. John Burnside was another slave master in Louisiana. The Burnside was the largest sugar producer in the country. Before he died, he had 10 plantations. He enslaved over 750 blacks in his lifetime. I'm telling you, man, I'm giving you guys the historical facts. These are some of the biggest slave masters in American history. Please believe me. Make sure that you guys bless the like button. It ain't nothing. Huh? What? Shout out to Tariq Nasheed, indeed, for bringing us some of this dope content. You already know. Reel it in rap, no cap. It should play upon the Red Supreme. Make sure that you like this stream in a major way. We in a building, baby. That's why we need to, he said, Big Boss 51 said, this is why I say we need to start calling ourselves black. Well, the white man did give us that name. Just like they called us foundational Black Americans, they labeled us black as well. So how do you guys feel about calling ourselves black? Should we stop calling ourselves black? What should we call ourselves then? If we're not black, then what are we going to call ourselves? Because some people say that the word black is problematic and we shouldn't be calling ourselves black, because black is a name that the white man gave us, just like the white man wanted us to label ourselves African Americans, which is when we allowed them to label us as African Americans, we put ourselves in a trick bag. So if we're not going to call ourselves black, what should we call ourselves? I want to get some feedback from the people. Give me your thoughts in the comments. Slavery is how the white man got wealthy. Black labor created wealth for whites in this country. Free black labor created wealth for whites in this country. Please believe me. Historical facts. North American freemen. Because a lot of people said, nah, man, we shouldn't be calling ourselves black because the white man gave us that name. We didn't call ourselves black. That's a label that the white man put on us, which is true. I can't deny that. So I want to get some feedback in the comments. Yeah, now, like I say, melanated, because melanated, listen, you got everybody who's non-white is melanated. So we got to be specific to who we are. But black is a label that was given to us by the whites man. Afro-Americans, well, when you say Afro-Americans, you're saying that you're African. When you say Afro-Americans, you're pretty much saying that you're an African-American, a Negro. Huh? If the word black is problematic, how should we identify ourselves? American freedmen? I love the feedback in the comments. Oh, yeah, most definitely, for sure. I love it. I love it. Yeah, man. Yeah. It ain't nothing. We are the foundation of this land. Shout out to Miss Make Me a Drink. Miss Make Me a Drink, I appreciate you for the feedback. Black people, African Americans, are Israelites from the tribe of Judah, Jacob Israel. That's who we really are. African Americans both was named after 2 European men. OG Lee, man. Shout out to OG Lee for the feedback. I appreciate that. Show some love to everybody, man, for tapping on in. It is what it is. Great, 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 great. Shout out to Miss Make Me a Drink. Damn, being FBA is a flex, huh? Foundational freeman. I like that. Miss Make Me a Drink said foundational freeman. Foundational freeman. Okay, I can dig it. Because the white man did call us black, but that's not something that we label ourselves. We just identified with that and ran with it, but that's not a name that we gave ourselves. Shouldn't be calling ourselves America either, since America is named after a European named Amerigo Vespucci, whatever. I don't know how to pronounce that. Vespucci. Shout out to Cat 6 Cable Guy. He said we shouldn't be calling ourselves American either, since America is named after a European. So America was named after a European. I can dig it. Africanus was a European. I understand that. Like Africa is not the original name of the continent Africa. Africanus was a European. They named, listen, Africa came from a white man named Africanus. So this is the problem with all this stuff, man. White people been in control for too long, labeling things, calling things how they see fit, and we just ran with it because we said, okay, you call somebody something. Listen, it's kind of like when you in the hood and you give one of your homeboys a nickname. If everybody start calling him that name for a long time, he'll just run with it like, wait, man, my homies gave me that nickname. Well, it's the same thing with black. White people called us black for so long. Eventually, we just identify with being black because the white man labeled us that. But that's not who we are originally. We didn't call ourselves black originally. That is a name given to us by the white T man. Oh yeah, realer than rap. Leo Africanus, a Roman. Shout out to Abdallah. I appreciate you for the cash app you sent earlier, Abdallah. Papa Kala, won't you go on and holla? Black and whites are just colors. We the only black people, FBA. Well, a lot of us say, man, the word black is problematic. It's like I said, it goes back to what I said. When you give your homeboy a name in the hood and everybody starts calling that particular individual that same name, eventually he'll just say, okay, that's what it is. This is what the homeboys call me. So he'll take on that name. That's psychology. That is psychology right there. So the white man knew if he called us black long enough, pretty soon we'll begin to identify with the word black because the white man been calling us that for so long. So we said, okay, forget it. Well, maybe we are black. So we just ran with it. Just like African American, they called us African American for so long to the point to where we just ran with it. But the reality of it is this: once we allowed them to call us African American, we didn't realize we was putting ourselves in a trick bag when we allowed them to label us that, when we took on that name. That's all I'm saying. The Bible is black history, facts. Ali Davis, we are not black. Somebody said, no, we no black. What's her name? LAR Cash Shepherd. Hold on, I'm gonna say your name right. Larcash Shepherd 1704 said, no, we know black. No, we know black. We know black. Elijah Muhammad, message to the black man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. We put ourselves in a trick bag when we put ourselves in a trick bag when we allowed that European to call us African American, because we are not from Africa. Our parents didn't come from Africa. Our grandparents didn't come from Africa. We are not African. We was raised here in America. So I get it. He said it's a classification, but it's not who we are as people. Shout out to Uncle Diggity. Uncle Diggity, it's a classification, but it's not who we are as people. We didn't call ourselves black until a European showed up. And they gave us that name and we just ran with it. Jesse Jackson started the African American label. Yes, that's true. But the white man stamped it. The white man co-signed it. Maybe somebody told Jesse Jackson and say, hey, man, you need to start calling these people African American. And Jesse Jackson started calling us just that. Then eventually we just ran with it. But in reality, that is not who we are. FBA Strong 8815 said, thanks for making note of that. Makes it clear for people to realize the nuance you mentioned. Shout out to you, my brother. Real Blackmatic said Christopher Columbus named America after Amerigo Vespucci before he died. If I'm saying the last name right, Vespucci. Amerigo Vespucci. I guess I'm saying it right. I don't know. Who we got up in here? Makeroo Hutch 54. Makeroo Hutch 543 said, as I understood Africanus, he was actually a defector of Carthage. He was melanated, but politically he was Roman. Many melanated people resided in Rome for various reasons. I appreciate you for the feedback. I appreciate you for the feedback, bro. You know? Because you don't know words and definitions, says Patrick. We are not black. We're not colored. We are the original people. We have no color. We are the light. Shout out to Miss Make Me a Drink. I appreciate you, baby. I appreciate you, baby. It's all gravy. You got some chick trying. I ain't even going to repeat that. She's trying to call Tariq an agent, man. Tariq is our brother, man, and we're going to rock with him. We're going to stand behind Tariq Nasheed 100%. We rocking with our brother. So, you know, we ain't going to tolerate disrespect of our bro. Shout out to King Flex. Shout out to Nasheed. We're going to rock with him. We're going to roll till the wheels fall off. FBA stand up. You already know what it is. Pretty Boy said that's why the connection with the Egyptians. That's why the connection with the Egyptians, if you notice the serpents on the crowns of Pharaoh, serpent worship during the time was a real deal. Look it up. Pyramids, them. Shout out to Pretty Boy. You don't even know what embellishment means. Words of the angry man. Angry Man said that black folks are so ignorant that they don't even know what embellishment means. Oh, that was funny, man, when he said that. He was feeling himself when he said that. The pyramids on his land, and they have found Israelite artifacts. Hold on, Shorty McRib said there's pyramids on his land, and they have found Israelite artifacts here. We are one of the lost tribes that was cast away. Shout out to Shorty McGriff. I love reading you guys' comments. I can't be FBA because of the misinformation. He said because of the misinformation. Okay. It is what it is, man. You can go with it. Well, I say this. To everybody who believes that they know what they're talking about, you need to start a platform and see if people will listen to you. Yes, a lot of people trying to call Tariq Nasheed the feds with no proof. They're just babbling. They're just rambling. The man is no fed. The man is not a fed. Tariq Nasheed is our brother, representing for the people, and we're gonna hold him down 100%. We're gonna rock with bro. It is what it is. There are 40 FBA rooms on TikTok every day. We the culture. Shout out to Carmel King. We shouldn't be focusing on the past. We should be focusing on now. Well, you got to talk about the past in order to move forward because you don't want to repeat the same mistakes. We talk about the past, but at the same time, we look towards the future, but we don't want to repeat the same mistakes. So sometimes we got to discuss the past so that we don't repeat the same cycle. And I'm just saying, he said only a tether would say that. Shout out to my girl, Illuminate Done. Shout out to you, baby. This one's for you, big baby. This one's for you. Miss Make Me a Drink said facts. Embellishment is just a synonym. I'm getting tongue tied. Synonym of exaggerated. Exactly, man. I'm just tongue tied over here talking too fast. Somebody, when you say embellish, you're just saying they're exaggerated. They're exaggerating. That's all. It's just another word for exaggerating. Embellish. That's all it is, man. They just mad because they not FBA. Man, I appreciate everybody. Listen, man, we got 500 plus people watching, almost 600 people watching. Make sure that you bless the Cash App, be a supporter and a contributor to this content because we going hard in the paint consistently, man. It's a synonym. Cinnamon. Rilla. Then rap. No cap. Giving you the hard-hitting facts. Anyway, man, we're going to get up out of here. It's King Supreme, man. I'll be back at y'all with some more content. I'll be back in the morning with some more content. Peace to everybody. I'm going to get up out of here. Make sure that you guys like the button. And make sure you guys hit the like button. And, oh, yeah, when this live stream uploads to YouTube, get in the comment section. The same way that you guys are engaging in the comments on the live stream, I need you guys to engage in the comments once it uploads to YouTube. And, oh, yeah, hype the video. I want you to like the video, but also I want you to hype the video once it uploads to YouTube in a major way, family. Peace, love, and blessings. I love everybody, y'all. I'm gone.